Shri Mahendra Babaji was a Siddha yogi, an ascetic with supernatural powers. He traveled across the Indian subcontinent professing the coming of Shri Haidakhan Babaji, who was acknowledged as one of the manifestations of Shiva Mahavatar Babaji, the famous immortal saint who revived Kriya Yoga. Shri Mahendra Babaji's mission was to pave the way for the re-emergence of Babaji in a physical form from 1970 to 1984 in Haidakhan, Uttar Pradesh, India. Babaji has appeared on earth in many different forms and incarnations. He can form a physical body anytime he needs without undergoing the normal process of being born into the world through a woman as a baby. The book Babaji Neti Neti, written by Sita Rami, records these descriptions of Haidakhan Babaji. His eyes are dark and sparkling, laughing, full of bliss, endless in their depth, seeming to contain or reflect the cosmos. His face is full like the sun. His beauty is beyond this world. His body is broad, sometimes quite large in stature. At times he seems to carry the earth in his belly. One devotee had an experience of entering Babaji's body and in fact viewing seemingly the whole universe contained therein. Despite this load, grace characterizes all of his movements. He walks sometimes carrying a staff, and his feet, like the lotus flower, do not seem to rest on the ground. At times he leaves no footprints. Some people who have carried him report that he seems to weigh almost nothing. What one observes in Babaji's physical appearance depends upon what Babaji chooses to disclose. Sheila, an Indian devotee, first met Babaji in 1972. When she first saw Babaji, she spoke to him internally. She asked that if he were what he was reported as being, he should disclose himself to her. For the next half hour, as she continually pinched herself to make sure she wasn't dreaming, she stared at his face, which changed like a kaleidoscope from one form of God to another, running the gamut of Hindu and other deities. I have seen him also with my physical eyes as the great Lord Shiva. One time I even saw his face as Hanuman, the beloved monkey-faced god who is said to be a Shiva manifestation. This fairest flower of creation, ocean of mercy without any motive. Why has he come to the world? To the worldly minded, it is impossible to perceive Babaji's nature. But God has few to whom he whispers in the ear. It is for these that he has come into the world. Abundant records of Haidakhan Babaji's divine powers abound. These included healing, restoring the dead to life, feeding the multitudes by multiplying a small portion of food, and being in several places simultaneously. He was known to have previously appeared near Haidakhan around the year 1800 until 1922, but there are accounts of his manifestations hundreds of years ago. The miracles that he performed daily for his followers, his response to their inner thoughts before they were articulated, and his teachings and his guidance were and remain at a plane far beyond the capabilities of any normal human. But above all, It was his loving divine presence that drew people towards him like a magnet. Delivering a grim message, Haidakhan Babaji prophesied that the world would encounter extensive physical destruction and death. He said that humanity is critically entering dangerous times and that the means to humankind's deliverance is to worship God and repeat God's holy name, especially Om Namahe Shivaya, I take refuge in God. This very act will help create a society which is humane, loving, and God-centered. Babaji also highlighted the importance of establishing ashrams around the world as a means of spiritual nourishment. We will continue the inspiring story of how Shri Mahendra Babaji prepared for the re-emergence of Babaji in 1970 after a brief interlude here on Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to Param Guru Shri Mahendra Babaji prophesying Haidakhan Babaji's return, part 2 of 2. In preparation for Babaji's reappearance in 1970, Shri Mahendra Babaji devoted his life to seeking Babaji and practicing the yogic disciplines that this magnanimous Guru had imparted to him in a vision during his youth. After experiencing Babaji's darshan at the Siddha Ashram, Shri Mahendra Babaji worked vigorously to restore old temples and Babaji's aging ashrams. Additionally, he built new places of worship for the enlightened master, including the Samba Sada Shiva Kunda Ashram in Vrindavan. The temple at Katkarya Dham in Haldwani was also rebuilt. On the eve of the consecration of a Babaji Murti, Guru statue, at Katkarya Dham, a miracle happened. At midnight, a dazzling light suddenly appeared above the 1,000-strong crowd who had gathered from all parts of India in preparation for the event. Then the light took the form that most people immediately recognized as the beloved Haidakhan Babaji with his Himalayan hat, topa, and his Indian shirt, kurta. The Haidakhan Babaji's apparition lasted several minutes, after which it turned into a light arch above the statue and entered it. The effect it produced on everyone was exquisitely profound and vividly blissful. Shri Mahendra Babaji was known for his strictness, disciplinary regime, and his siddhis. In Babaji's honor, he wrote several texts. These include the devotional hymn Shri Munidra Sukta and the book Devya Kath Amrit. The Shri Munidra Sukta was written as part of Haidakhan Arti, a fire ritual and devotional songs, while the Devya Kath Amrit was created as an invocation by all heavenly beings for Sada Shiva to descend to earth to protect the righteous and strengthen the faith of the religious-minded. In 1954, while Shri Mahendra Babaji was meditating in a cave at Haidakhan, Babaji once again appeared to him in physical form. Through experience, Shri Mahendra Babaji knew that despite the innumerable forms that his Guru had taken throughout the course of human history, Babaji was truly beyond form. In this context, Shri Mahendra Babaji commented that we cannot put to measure He who is the measure of all things. While in Haldwani, Shri Mahendra Babaji contentedly entered Mahasamadhi in 1969, a year before Haidakhan Babaji's return to the physical world. Shri Mahendra Babaji had fulfilled his role as a forerunner of his great Guru and worked endlessly for the benefit and salvation of humanity. During his cremation ceremony, attended by thousands of mourning devotees, some Vrindavan residents recalled how the hand of a lifeless body miraculously lifted itself and blessed all present there. Even in death, never for a moment did Shri Mahendra Babaji cease to love and care for his devoted followers. In 1970, a man from Haidakhan by the name of Chandramani had a dream in which he was visited by his long-deceased father, who had been a devotee of Haidakhan Babaji. His father told him that Babaji had reappeared and that he should go and look for him in a certain cave. Chandramani went to the cave and found a venerable old man with a long white beard sitting there. The old man told him to go home and come back in 3 days. Chandramani went home but returned immediately. When he came back, to his amazement, instead of the old man, he found a young yogi of angelic beauty. The young saint acknowledged that he was Haidakhan Babaji. This new Babaji, who seemed to be 20 to 22 years old, later stated in the local court that his age was 130 years. The court acknowledged that he was the same Haidakhan Babaji who had appeared half a century earlier in the same region, just as Shri Mahendra Babaji had foretold.